Once again, welcome back to the program. ਇੰਨੀ ਕੌਰ ਜੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਇੰਸਟੀਚਿਊਟ ਦੇ ਬੋਰਡ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਨੂੰ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾਵੇ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਇੱਕ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਤੱਕ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਹੁੰਚਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਥਰੂ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਟੈਲਿੰਗ। ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁਝ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਵੀ ਲਿਖੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬਾਨ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਅਹਿਮ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਇੰਸਟੈਂਸਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦਰਸਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ। So Inni Kaur ji, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where did you grow and what prompted you towards Sikhi?
Well, I was born and raised in Kuwait. ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੰਮੇ ਪਲੇ ਕਦੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਗਏ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਨਿਊਜ਼ੀਲੈਂਡ ਗਈ, ਨਿਊਜ਼ੀਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ, ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਗ੍ਰੀਸ, ਗ੍ਰੀਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਆਏ। ਤੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਹਾਊ ਡਿਡ ਆਈ ਬਿਕਮ ਅਟੈਚਡ ਟੂ ਇਟ 1984 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ। 1984 ਜਦੋਂ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ 'ਤੇ ਹਮਲਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਹਿਲ ਗਿਆ। ਕੀ ਹਿਲਿਆ ਕੁਝ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਐਟ ਦੈਟ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਮੈਂ 27 years ਦੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਵੁੱਡ ਸੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕਲਚਰਲ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੀਗੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗਾ। ਪਰ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਵੈਂਟਸ ਹੋਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਝ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਹਿਲਿਆ ਤੇ ਆਈ ਵਾਂਟਡ ਟੂ ਡਿਸਕਵਰ ਫॉर ਮਾਈ ਸੈਲਫ। 84 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਕੜਾ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ। 84 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਕੇਸ ਰੱਖੇ। ਹਾਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਕਿਉਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ 84 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਾਸ ਅ ਟਰਨਿੰਗ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਇਨ ਮਾਈ ਲਾਈਫ।
Right. And you're a painter, you're an artist, you've written some books also in Sikhi. So 84 to baad tusi inspire hoye and you didn't know what it was, but definitely your path towards Sikhi started after that. So if you could take us back and let us know, did tusi books bare sochya, paintings pehla to hi shauq si ya ਇਹ ਵੀ 84 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ?
ਇਹ 84 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸੀਗਾ। 84 ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ really I was immersed in Sikhi. I was looking for something. Looking for the meaning, looking ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ, how did they do this and how could we allow this to happen? My grandfather was involved in the Quit India movement and he was sent out to Iran by the British. So I heard these stories growing up. So for me to hear those stories that, I lost my great-grandfather in 47. My grandfather's back had all these lashes on them because he was imprisoned by the British. And then they fought for India. And here today, this happened to us. So my identity and everything shook. 84 to baad, bhai sahab, it was a point of soul searching and getting immersed in Sikhi. This came, the art, the writing came much later on. Jado I felt connected. And books de bare, it was Paisa Bhaivir Singh ji's books, Guru Nanak Chamatkar. ਉਹ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਨਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗੀ because I learned after 45 with the Qaeda. In 3 weeks I learned the Akhar. I taught myself and din raat I insisted that I needed to learn this. And ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿਤਨੀ ਸੋਚ ਵੀ ਉਸ ਵਕਤ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅੱਖਰ ਜੁਆਇਨ ਹੋ ਗਏ and the book that I picked up was Guru Nanak Chamatkar, not knowing ਕਿਉਂ. And it was with the dictionary, Punjabi dictionary in hand, that I started to read the book, but I couldn't understand it. So I would translate line by line, ki Pitaji ki keh rahe hain. For me, he was first Bhaivir Singh, and as I got to know him through his books, he became Paisa Bhaivir Singh ji, and now I refer to him as Pitaji.
Right.
So Pitaji de naal itni lad lag gayi ki I started reading his Guru Nanak Chamatkar to yes, but his vyakhya of Gurbani, his Siddh Gosht, his translation of the Lamas, that really held me. And to really understand him, I had to translate it for myself.
Right.
So that's how that work started. Now, why I wrote those books, It's an interesting story. It was my husband's birthday, and my children, I have two girls, they were in their 20s and 30s, and they started teasing their father because my husband read to his children every night, and they remembered every story that he had read. He had read the Peter Rabbit collection, he had read all the British poems. And at that time I thought, oh my gosh, what a mistake I had made. That had he read Sakhis to them, they would have remembered them.
Right.
But at that time, there were no Sakhis of that good quality material. Because if you give a child a book which is beautifully printed, a Disney book, and then you give them a book of a guru jari itni badly printed hai ki hai, English theek nahi hai.
Read it.
Not read it. You're creating
Right.
you're creating something in the child that our work is not as good, substandard work.
Right.
So I didn't want that to happen with the children. So I would tell them the stories. So at that dinner, when there was this voice in me said, now you write the book. I said, I've never written a book. You write it. And that's how my journey started, with writing Journey with the Gurus. So I'm on my 4th volume.
Right.
3 are done. So the 4th one is in the writing mode. I am right now with Bacha in Mecca.
Okay.
So that's the story I'm working on.
So is one volume dedicated to just one guru, or is just a continuation of all the stories?
You know, it has evolved. It was supposed to be that I would do one for every guru, but it's not working out. I think probably for the first Bacha, I will have 5 volumes, because that is the basis of Sikhi, and I want to explain it the way it's coming out. I want the children to fall in love with Guru.
Right.
Because if they fall in love with Guru, you have them. But in this series, the girls have fallen in love with Bebe Nanaki. She has become a very, very strong character for them, and I'm amazed how wherever I go, they want to know more about Bebe Nanaki. Can you tell us more stories about her? So that tells me there's a hunger in our girls for female role models, and they identify her very much with Guru. Plus the fact that she was the first Sikh, plus the fact that she adored him and that he went to her, all those things play in it. But what is also very interesting, that in the books I never thought that Bebe Nanaki would be a fashion model. But the girls want the lengas which she's wearing, and they write they call their dadis and nanis, and we want the lengas which Bebe Nanaki is wearing. So it's quite interesting, what the children pick up with.
Right. And as far as painting is concerned, what do you focus in that?
Paintings came much later. There's a teacher who said, when I went to her, I said, I want you to teach me how to paint. She said, I cannot teach you. I can only bring what is inside you out on a canvas. So when I look at a canvas and I look at the paint, I start moving the paint. It's either a vision of a person who comes in front of me, why I'm making that painting for that person, or it is a Shabad. When I'm immersed in the Shabad, the paints move and it becomes the source. I mean, my painting, one of the paintings I've titled is The Source, because from the source everything is created. From Inni Kaur, the world flows. There's a painting which I've done on 1984, and that was because after 30 years there was a need. I felt a poem in Punjabi come to me, and there's a stanza in the poem which moved me very deeply. It was, and I painted that, and it talked about the parkarma. It talked about the sarovar parkarma par gaya sikhan diyan lashan naal, sarovar rang gaya sikhan de khoon naal, trakkan par ke ਲੈ ਗਏ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲਾਲੋ ਲਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਗਗਨ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ. So I wanted to capture that scene, or that scene wanted to capture me. I wanted to have a memory that this was such an important thing, because I think we are forgetting 84, and that painting is very, very special
Right.
to me. And so it's events of what I write, what moves me. It's really the Shabbat. But when I paint, I look at the painting and I know this painting belongs to this friend of mine because that's them.
Right.
That's how I give it.
So why do you think that there's a need, as you said, that we are forgetting 1984? Why do you think personally, and as well as you have gone across, talked to the people, why do you think, especially for the youngsters, it is necessary to keep that remembrance of 1984? And what should we learn from that? What do you feel about that?
Well, for me, 1984 was very important because it was a turning point in my life.
Right.
Why we should keep it important? Because we need our story to be told. There's a story that needs to be told. We as a community protect our children. We as a community we put everything under the rug, don't want to talk about it. But if we don't talk about it, we'll never know what really happened and why it happened. To me, why I keep the memory alive, because it's my commitment to the people who were massacred for no reason, just because they were Sikhs. So if I identify and I call myself that I'm part of the Panth, then this is my Panthic duty that I must keep their memory alive in any way, shape I can. So even if the world doesn't talk about it, I will talk about it. If the world doesn't acknowledge it, I will acknowledge it through poetry, through art, through everything that I can. I feel it's my personal responsibility.
And finally, we'd like to know from you that there are two paths right now going along, where we find one side is the crisis, what we are finding in our community, whereas we are not being able to spread the message of what the Guru said to especially our youngsters. And on the other hand, there are some youngsters who are walking on this path, but they're also kind of not understanding what the Guru said. It is more of a following. So when you go and talk to the youngsters through your books, through your paintings, what would be your message to them? How to be a proud Sikh, and along with that, a global citizen too?
I'm not sure I like the word proud. It's not a word which I'm comfortable with using. I would say, how do you fall in love with Sikhi? That to me is the message. So when you fall in love with Sikhi, everything flows from there, because that's what happened to me. So, to tell them is really connecting with Bani. I mean, the Bani is so beautiful. It is unbelievable. There are jewels in there. But you have to take the time to understand it, and you have to connect at that deeper level. I think the first part is the passion which the children have who are walking on the path, which is great. But after the passion, then you need the substance. You need something to sustain them. So this is where I think the work of Sikri is very, very important, because we are trying to help them fall in love. In fact, we are making them fall in love. I mean, I just go by my journey. When a person is in love, they will do anything. But how do you get them to understand the jewels that are in there? And that is what Sikri is doing, making the message a little clearer. And then after all, everybody responds in their own way. Now, for the people, you said the second part, who are not connected Guru's message, it's how you live your life. If you live your life the way Guru has intended, wants, and it's not even so much as Guru, it is Man tu jo saroop hai, apna mool pehchan. I mean, that line itself speaks volumes. And if we can get that line across, and people really believe that, understand it, and walk the path, home free.